We got a double flush yesterday. Can you believe it? The first flush was with these inflation numbers, the PPI inflation numbers, which came in hotter than expected. And then we got like a second flush on the markets yesterday when Scott Bessent came out and said, pretty much, he said they're not going to be buying any Bitcoin.
We're talking about a number way above 750 billion. What's the story on gold?
We've got the large gold holding. I doubt we're going to revalue it, but we are going to keep it there, again, as a store of value for the American people. We've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop.
And that caused a second flash. We said we're not actually going to be buying it. We're going to be using confiscated assets. I want to address these two things, and then I want to talk about probably what is the biggest narrative of the cycle, the thing that's driving the whole cycle, and that's treasury companies. Because today we're going to go deep into one of the most exciting treasury companies out there. I'm telling you, this conversation today is absolutely going to blow your mind. So listen, big show today, Friday Banter. If that sounds good to you, let's get the show on the road, guys. You know, I really hope that you weren't one of the lettuce hands that got stopped out yesterday or panic sold yesterday because of the PPI numbers, which came in hotter than expected. I mean, are you telling me that you don't believe we're going to get an interest rate cut in September? If you are, you should be probably watching another channel. And then, listen, the US was never, ever, ever going to buy Bitcoin, right? All they said is that they could, and I tweeted about this yesterday. I said, the US was never going to buy Bitcoin. What they said is that they will accumulate Bitcoin if it's in a budget neutral way. Now, the only way that they can accumulate Bitcoin in a budget neutral way is if they mine Bitcoin with excess electricity. Problem is that if they've got excess electricity right now, the AI war is probably the more important war to be using the electricity on. So it was never part of the plan for them to buy Bitcoin. So I really hope that none of you got shaken out in this little shakeout. And as I said at the bottom of my tweet, in the shakeout here, as I said in the bottom of my tweet, I guarantee you that ETH will actually break the highs in less than a week, because I think all that happened here was that it was an RSI reset. And now I think that ETH is going to start making its move to actually destroy the all-time high. So I'm staying super bullish until further notice. If anything changes, obviously, I'll let you guys know. I also want to be talking about something big today. We know that this cycle has been driven by the treasury companies, right? We know that the tokens that have good, solid treasury companies, those are the ones that are going to have got to bid the cycle. If you can attract Wall Street money through these treasury companies. And so I figured what we need to do is we need to dive deep into these treasury companies. And today I've got probably one of the best interviews that you're going to hear on Banter. And it's probably into one of the most fascinating treasury companies in the world today. And that's going to be absolutely amazing. But before we get there, you know, it's Friday. Fridays are brought to us by NordVPN. They are the crypto VPN. They keep us safe by making sure we don't expose our IP addresses to our government and whatever else. If you want a NordVPN, honestly, it's the best investment you're going to make in crypto. $4 a month. That's it. You pay $4 a month, you get yourself a NordVPN, and you protect your crypto. There's a link below. Here, it's right here in the show below. Trust me, get NordVPN and get the add-ons, the 𝗙𝗏𝗏 and the Threat Protect, which you can see in the link here. All right, I don't want to waste too much more time. I want to get straight into the meat and potatoes in the show, the alpha of the show. And I want to start speaking about treasury companies. And now with all these treasury companies, you need to find the ones that are actually going to make an impact. And we're going to be meeting with the founders, with the CEOs, with the chairmen of all the chairpeople, not can't say chairmen, of all the treasury companies that we think are interesting. Now, one of the ones that I find the most interesting is the new one that's actually been launched around Ton. And what I've managed to do is I've managed to get... Manny, how do I refer to you? Do I refer to you as the founder, the CEO, the chairman? What? I know you're the Michael Saylor of Ton, but I don't know what the title for that is.
Executive chairman. You know, Saylor is also executive chairman of strategy. And the other good example is Tom Lee, who is the executive chairman of BitMine. So executive chairman would be best. So
you're the executive chairman of the new Ton Treasury Company. For those people who don't know what it is, it's this company over here. It's called Verb, right? That's the company, right? And I think it's rebranding, right?
That is correct, yeah. We launched basically Monday last week, and then we closed on Thursday and announced $1 billion ATM already on Friday. So that's all record time. And now for the first time, really, I can talk about this. I'm very, very excited to do it with you, Rand. Thanks for having me on the show.
So wait, hold on. So you actually went from 0 to $1 billion faster than SharpLink went from 0 to $1 billion. I mean, on paper.
Yeah, I mean, look, it must be some kind of Guinness Book World Record. This was like kind of an idea like a month ago, and now we're $1 billion company, public on Nasdaq. Now, granted, it's a balance sheet company, right? But still, it's been a hell of a July.
Okay, I need to just, for those people who don't know who you are, we've obviously spoken extensively and we've built quite a good friendship. But just walk me through like who are you and how the hell did you get here?
Sure, I'll try to keep that brief. So I'm an entrepreneur myself who happens to be an investor. I started my own investment firm coming out of Goldman Sachs roughly 12 years ago called Kingsway Capital based in London. I built a multi-billion-dollar asset management business from zero. We're around 5 billion today. And really like 6 years ago, we got into crypto. And today we've got over half of our assets in crypto. And first I became the biggest investor in Toncoin. We bought about well over 100 million coins starting 4 years ago. And so I became the biggest investor in Toncoin, brought a lot of other investors in. Ton is backed by Sequoia, Benchmark, Ribbit, and the biggest backs of Elon, a firm called 𝗙𝗍𝗍𝗍. And then I also got involved with the foundation, where I served on the board of the foundation since inception, really, and then I became president at the beginning of this year. And look, I've known Michael Saylor for 4 years personally. I went to his 100K party this past New Year's in Miami, and of course, he's having a wonderful midlife crisis. I found, credit where credit is due. Really pioneering this a new segment almost, this new strategy, right? And what for me is fascinating about Saylor and strategy is that, of course, Bitcoin is up 11 times or so since he started this 5 years ago. But his stock has outperformed NVIDIA in the AI boom and is up roughly 35 times. So 2/3 of the return on the stock came actually from the capital allocation, from the strategy, while only 1/3 of it came from the underlying spot performance. And of course, that has been wildly impressive. Now, the other maybe important example I would like to give is BitMine. BitMine, BMNR, is only 45 days old as an Ethereum treasury strategy company. In 45 days, they have delivered something like a 15x. Ethereum is up like 2 times, pretty impressive, but the stock is up 15 times, right? And I'm happy to explain to you how we can perhaps even beat that. I mean, we have we're standing on the shoulders of giants. We are effectively executing the BitMine playbook, which I'm happy to walk you through how it exactly works.
Okay, so I mean, just before we actually get as to how you're doing it, I saw that Pantera is all in. Well, they're now all in on Ton, but they're also all in on treasury companies, and they also backed Tom Lee. And they wrote an article. They wrote a newsletter this week, and in the newsletter, they broke down how treasury companies can outperform the individual stocks, the individual tokens, right? And so that their thesis was it's probably better to own the treasury company than to own the underlying asset because of the math behind it. Just walk us through why should any investor look to buying a treasury company and not just hold Ton? Like if I like Ton, why should I buy the Ton treasury company and not just go into the market and just buy a whole lot of Ton tokens?
Absolutely, and I think this analysis definitely holds, let's say, in a bull market, right? And also, huge fans of Pantera. They've been, big supporters of Ton. They're investors in the 𝗨 and 𝗏𝗏 as well. And big shout out to them to really, putting their name out there to really, also help, the understanding of the segment, right? I mean, look, there's sort of the $1 trillion question is why on earth are trading these companies, these stocks at a premium to book, to NAV, right? And I think the simple answer is there's probably 100 times more capital that can buy stocks than can buy coins. And that's true even for Bitcoin, even for Ethereum or Solana, right? And whatever the true number is, Ram, you can add one more zero. It's probably 1,000 times bigger in terms of capital that can buy stock compared to buying Ton. Toncoin is not yet even listed on the largest US spot exchanges, such as Coinbase or Robinhood, or the largest Korean one, such as Upbit, right? Now, you might have seen Coinbase Ventures just announced their investment in Toncoin. I'll leave it at that, right? But that is, I think, one of the reasons why these stocks are trading at a premium to book and why I think we should even arguably deserve a higher multiple to book because it is even so much harder to buy Toncoin, the underlying, especially for US investors, than to buy our stock, right? Now, the second point is maybe slightly, less obvious. What really Saylor figured out in my mind is that this is a permanent capital vehicle. And that's a huge difference compared to, let's say, an ETF, right? Now, if you sell the ETF sells the coin, not a permanent cap vehicle. Now, if you sell our stock or strategy stock, the coin stays. Now, the stock can go down, but the coin does not move, right? And what this means is it's a listed corporation that can trade at a discount or at a premium to its book value, but also can do something about that, can buy back its stock, can issue more stock, issue other securities, can stake. We can stake like other proof of stake protocols, the treasury companies who are pursuing that, and have a massive advantage over the Bitcoin companies, right? Just imagine you have a balance sheet with a multiple, and suddenly a P&L or cash flow statement also with a multiple, double that, right? And then also we can be included in the index, and the ETF can do none of these things, right? So the name of the game here is to grow book value per share, right? Which is precisely the 2/3 of the return for strategy that came from its strategy rather than 1/3 from the underlying spot performance. Now, how do we grow book value per share? Well, in its simplest form, right? We issue, let's say, common equity at a premium to book, and that is not dilution. That is basically accretive dilution or anti-dilution because you buy more Toncoin at book, right? And of course, it's all about really maximizing the spread of cost of capital and return on capital, right? Now, clearly the underlying needs to be exciting. I would never ever do this with an underlying I wouldn't have, full and long-term conviction in. But of course, that is the case for Ton. And I'm happy to talk about the case for, Ton itself as well. Hugely exciting. It's all about Telegram. That does need introduction. But, we can maybe cover that in a different section because this is really about the treasury strategy, right? And so if we can do this well, BitMine grew its NAV from like $4 a share on the 30th of June to like, in the high 20s now or something like that, right? So this is basically, what is it? 7x or so in a month and a half, right?
Yeah, but they're trading at a 3x premium to NAV then because they're trading at about $61 now.
Yeah, I think the probably book value per share. Again, Ethereum has gone up so much; it might be 30 already. I think it's actually trading with a 2 handle probably, but yeah, it's still been very, very impressive, and it's even been worth paying high multiples to NAV in the beginning of the phase of these strategy companies. You could have paid 2 times for MicroStrategy, 3 years ago, and still made a very, very good return because book value per share has grown so much.
So how much of the premium between book value and net asset value is attributed to debt finance? In other words, a lot of this is a lot of these companies aren't only going to issue equity; they're also going to issue convertibles. They're going to issue debt, and the difference between what they repay the debt holders and what they can accrue for the capital holders must make up for some kind of portion of the premium, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the case for mature treasury companies like Strategy. We are 100% common equity financed, and we will stay 100% common equity financed, maybe forever, but at least for quite a while. Just to quote 𝗙𝗪𝗏, right, who said, "Smart young men like you and me go broke the 3 different ways."
Leverage, liquor, and ladies.
Ladies, liquor, and leverage, right? So my point is, I don't want to be, too politically incorrect here, but ladies, liquors might be fine, but no leverage, right? Because, I do worry about what the wise man does at the beginning, the fool does at the end in the treasury companies, right?
Yes.
As long as these are trading at a premium to book, people will create more of these treasury companies. And the minute you see, not world-class, not experienced team wrapping coin number 75 in a NASDAQ shell with leverage, I would probably be careful with that.
Okay, hold on. I have to ask you a question because you and I are, I would like to say, smart crypto investors, or at least I know that you're a smart crypto investor. I'm still working out whether I'm a smart crypto investor. Would you rather buy ETH, or would you rather buy BMNR at 3 times book at 3 times premium to ETH itself? Honestly, as a crypto investor, if you've got $100 in your pocket or $100,000 in your pocket, or in your case, $100 million in your pocket, is there any way that you can justify buying this asset as opposed to just going to buy ETH?
I love the Bitmain team. I think they've outdone Saylor at being Saylor. I mean, having grown book value by 7-8 times in 45 days. That took Saylor years to do, right? I would continue betting on the winner, and I think ETH will do well. If ETH doubles, which I think it will, right? But it might take some time, right? Bitcoin will more than double, right? Because as I explained earlier, they can grow book value per share by buying more of it, by issuing equity at a premium to book. But also every move in ETH also benefits their book as well, right? And so I think this still has legs to run. And again, I think even for strategy, I would probably say the same thing. I think if Bitcoin doubles, a strategy stock will probably more than double. I think you can arguably say, well, once Saylor hits 10, 12% of all Bitcoin or so, it's getting harder and harder. But he's I think at 3.5% or so.
But the difference for me between again strategy and these guys is that it's Saylor has a way of engineering very smart fixed income, repaying his fixed income guys and enriching his equity holders. Now I don't know how many of the other treasury companies are going to be smart enough to engineer and be able to attract the fixed income capital. And I don't know, I feel okay with my strategy position, but I think if I was holding this one, I don't know. I mean, it would be great in the bull market, but on the day that the bull market turns, I kind of think I want to be in ETH.
Absolutely. Look, what happens is in the bear market, I think the premiums will not only compress. I think these stocks will trade at a discount to book, right? And Saylor traded at roughly 30% discount, if my memory serves me right. But if you followed our 3 golden rules, right? Number 1, no hard financial leverage. Keep in mind you can do soft convertibles, but let's say no hard financial leverage. Number 2, which is the advantage for us and Bitmain, but has a problem for the Bitcoin companies, we can quite easily have, call me old-fashioned, revenues minus expenses greater than 0. We have staking yield, right? And the staking yield, it's a scale game, and it makes a difference if you have an asset manager with 100 million or 10 billion, right? You don't have 100 times the cost, right? And even if you go from 10 billion NAV to 5, or God forbid 2.5, you're probably still profitable, right? But that's not the case if you're starting at a small position. And so, but absolutely right. I think these stocks will have leverage on the way up, but also it's not financial, but embedded leverage on the way down. And what we would do in that scenario, number 1, if we are profitable and if we are debt free, we can just ride it out, right? I mean, of course, not a great basically a day for our stock perhaps, but there's no risk of going bust, right? Number 2, maybe better than that, we could use some of our cash reserves to buy back our stock, right? If you do that at a discount per share, you're growing book value on a per share basis. Number 3, you could even choose to, but you don't have to. We never want to be a forced seller, but you could choose to sell the underlying coin at least gently and use the cash proceeds to also buy back your stock, right? And that would also be accretive. So my point is you have to be thoughtful about this, but and yes, if you can time the market, I think you want to ride them on the way up and be in the underlying asset on the way down. But my job is growing book value per share relentlessly and work for the common stockholder in the long term.
All right, let's talk about the underlying, which is TON. So I think this is the first real opportunity for Americans to get their hands, or American institutions to get their hands onto the asset, which is TON. And I think that I'd like to think that indirectly that gives people exposure into the Telegram app, which is not listed anywhere publicly and stuff like that. Let's quickly just let's marry the relationship between TON and Telegram. For those people who are watching this, what is the relationship between the TON asset and the Telegram app? And I picked up around the Telegram app that the numbers are staggering. It's got 1 billion active users as of 2025. It's got 450 million daily active users. 45% of the Indian population uses Telegram, while 9% of the American population uses Telegram. Most people see that as a flaw. I kind of see that as one of the biggest opportunities in the world, especially since they've just launched their wallet in America. And it's got a whole lot of other stuff here, but walk me through the thesis for the TON asset and the relationship between the TON asset and the Telegram app.
Absolutely. No, look, you hit it on on the head, basically, Ran. Right? I mean, this is an N out of one asset run by an N out of one founder, right? Telegram is 1 billion monthly active users, and that already makes it the second biggest messaging app in the entire world after WhatsApp. But WhatsApp is no longer growing, and the first billion is the hardest in my humble experience, right? So the plan is 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, maybe 4 billion, right? 𝗫𝗫𝗪 Durov, maybe the GOAT, the greatest of all time, is not stopping. No, he's the only living human being who not only has built an app that 1 billion people use every month, there's maybe 5 or 6 others, but he's the only one of those who owns 100% of that app. He doesn't even drink caffeine, let alone got alcohol. This guy is relentless, right? He's like Elon level good, right? And, Telegram, if you look at it, is the number 6 app in the entire world, right? Let's go through the other 5 and ask the question, which of them are doing blockchain, right? You've got WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, basically not allowed. And then you got, 2 Chinese ones, Tencent, WeChat, ByteDance, TikTok. Neither are they allowed. So then you've got Telegram. So it is the world's biggest. That has done it. It is live. It's deployed. I can take on my Telegram right now and send you or anyone in the world basically Toncoin or stable coins living on Ton or NFTs living on Ton by pressing a button, right? And just the scale of this needs to be fully understood. What is the relationship? So Ton, the blockchain, was originally developed by the Telegram team, and they basically had to for regulatory reasons in 1718 basically separate themselves. So Ton is an independent blockchain. It's a layer 1. It is, decentralized. It has a foundation, but it is natively integrating with the Telegram messaging app, and it has an exclusive partnership as well. So basically, Telegram has, exclusivity with Ton. So Telegram could not do the same thing with either ETH, Solana, or anyone, nor probably wouldn't want to, given they're very proud of the technology. And what it means is that basically, the entire, for instance, Telegram mini app platform, TMA, is exclusive to Ton. So any developer developing a Telegram mini app related to crypto, it has to be a Ton wallet or, Ton Connect, it's called. Now, of course, you can bridge to Solana, you can bridge to ETH, but it has to be built on Ton. Now, Telegram has an ads platform, all put on Ton rails. And then Telegram also has a bots platform, also, basically partnering with Ton. All the developers are being paid out in Ton or USDT on Ton. And so it's really like an all-encompassing partnership that is exclusive.
Has 𝗫𝗫𝗪 officially endorsed the I mean, I know he has because I've seen him talking at Token 2049 and some other places, but has he ever come out and said, guys, I hold Ton? Or there, because I mean, has he ever publicly admitted that he owns Ton?
No, he has posted this in his channel. I mean, without any ambiguity, this is not just a sort of contractual partnership that is exclusive. There's pure financial alignment, right? I mean, frankly, the reason why Telegram is independent is that 𝗫𝗫𝗪 doesn't want to monetize the unethical way. He doesn't want to, take away your privacy, take all your private data, mine it with the AI, sell it to the highest bidder, showing you invasive ads, and selling the data to all the governments, which is what Facebook is doing, right? So he wants to monetize the honest way with Telegram Premium, non-invasive ads. But, Ton is the most important piece of the entire global monetization puzzle for Telegram. And Telegram is one of the biggest, if not the biggest owner of Ton. He's last publicly disclosed that he holds between, this is Telegram, the messenger, 10 to 15% of the entire network. But he also respects decentralization, so he doesn't want to go above 15%. And Telegram, apart from having so much Ton to start with, is getting more Ton because the foundation, that pays Telegram in return for the exclusivity is paying Telegram in Toncoin. And if you buy your Telegram username, you can pay in Toncoin. If you buy your anonymous phone number or Telegram gifts or Telegram stars, you can pay in Toncoin. So Telegram is basically choosing to not go above 15%. So if they have done that, they would never sell in the market, but they would sell to long-term investors, typically with a lockup structure over 4 years vesting. But then they also don't want to be less than 10%. So this is kind of where the financial alignment says. So if Ton goes up, Telegram dramatically benefits, and of course that is really really important for Telegram's future.
I mean, you spent some time with 𝗫𝗪𝗪. We've actually discussed it separately. And I mean, you are or you were the head of the foundation. Like in your discussions with him, how important is the Toncoin to him relative to everything else that he's doing? And I include the messenger in that. Like I'm trying to get his like a feel for his priority set, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure. No, I mean, it's hugely important, right? And if that hasn't been abundantly clear. I mean, Pavel's post over the last week or so, especially when we launched this company, hopefully speak volumes there, right? He basically called Ton, even if Telegram was a nation, this is the national currency. Like this is important, to the extent the US dollar is important to the United States government, Ton is important to Telegram, right? And yes, we've discussed this at length. Clearly Telegram itself is the messenger, and that's the company he runs and created and 100% owns, right? But because Pavel has chosen not to monetize the unethical way, and has chosen not to monetize the users with sort of advertisements that are algorithmic and also frankly selling your data, right, which is unethical. Toncoin is the most important puzzle piece for the global monetization of Telegram. So basically, Plan A is Toncoin, right? And Plan B is also Toncoin, and Plan C is Toncoin. Plan D is basically for Telegram to refinance its debt, which he has done. But only like Plan F would be to take the company public, which would be akin for Pavel to effectively sell his soul, right? He's come so far, retaining 100% ownership of Telegram. So and he wants to keep it this way, as far as I understand. And so really, it's Toncoin is the guarantor that needs to go well. Failure is not an option for Telegram to continue to be financially independent.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think I get it. I mean, I was also involved in the 2017, 2018 ICO, and I kind of watched that whole thing play out. And I mean, yeah, I think it's very smart how we actually landed up here. I want to talk about the elephant in the room. And I think the elephant in the room is there's this cloud over Pavel's head around, he was detained in France at one point. He landed in France and he was detained in France for questioning by the authorities. I think to date they found nothing. And I think if I have this correctly, he's allowed to travel, but he's still under some kind of, not sure what the correct legal term is, but still kind of under some kind of restriction from the French government. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why maybe the price of Ton has been quite hard hit, because Telegram's not listed, there's no share price. So probably the only gauge as to how the market's feeling is the Ton token. And if you look at the Ton token, like we're in the midst of the beginning of an old season, and you kind of look at this chart, and this chart's not in the midst of that old season. I mean, even though you can see it is beautifully on this thing here. I'm trying to get a feel for like, how do you see the first of all, what is the legal situation? Is he under arrest? Is he not under arrest? Is he allowed to travel? Is he not allowed to travel? Where are we at?
Look, of course, I can't speak for Pavel. I'll tell you what I know, and I guess I know more than most, right? But it's also, frankly, all in the public domain, right? So basically, he is legally speaking a suspect. He hasn't formally been accused yet. There is an ongoing investigation, and that has come with travel restrictions. So yes, he was detained, but he was released after 72 hours. And they took, basically all his stuff, found nothing, right, so far, right? And, the case is, in my mind, very spurious. He's basically originally been accused that he should be personally held responsible for everything that Telegram might be used for that could be illegal, right? I mean, look, if I have an Apple iPhone, right, which I do, right? And if I were to do something illegal with that iPhone, which I won't,
if they only knew what I'd done with my phone, then.
But right? If I did something illegal with that, which I won't, but if I did, Tim Cook wouldn't land in jail. I mean, the US has thought about this 30 years ago. The tech companies fought and won the battle to basically figure out that the user is responsible, right? And that is the sensible way of handling this. I'm from Europe. It's not our proudest moment, right? And so basically, yes, the travel restrictions have been eased, and it is absolutely responsible. I think it's one of three reasons why the coin has not performed very well. And, we had some good news in March that the travel restrictions were eased, and you could see the Toncoin bottomed in March around $2.50. But frankly, we're not that much higher than then. And, he's allowed to travel to Dubai. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's upside, if you ask me, because you're not going to wake up one morning, 𝗬𝗏𝗪 is a problem in France. You went to bed with that reality, knowing that last night. And I think eventually they're going to probably settle or something. It'll be my guess. I literally have no information there, but he's. I mean, it's frankly embarrassing what's happening there, right?
I must agree.
And the other two, and by the way, like I take it sort of almost personal, right? That this is like, I'm on Team Freedom. I know you and your audience are as well. Like, if you kind of want to stuff it to the French and I think, this is a huge opportunity in my mind to also support 𝗙𝗏 and Telegram and this whole cause, right? Now, look, I want to touch on two other points, right? In my humble judgment, of course, altcoins overall have underperformed because we did not have the institutional bid in altcoins compared to Bitcoin, which is number one, the ETF, but number two, the Treasury companies, right? 𝗧𝗏 has been doing this for 5 years, and we've had a lot of copycats in Bitcoin, right? That is changing now for many of the large altcoins. That's clearly has basically resurrected ETH, right? And you see what's happened there in a very short time frame since we've had these treasury companies. And of course, it should do the same thing for Ton. You got to understand one thing, Ran. I don't think there will be one ecosystem that will benefit more from the existence of the treasury company compared to the Ton ecosystem, right? It took 𝗧𝗏 5 years, right, to basically hodl through the bear market and issue securities that neither you or I have ever heard of, right? And he got to barely 3.5% of the Bitcoin supply. That's huge, right? Amazing. But in Bitmine, right, the big, hairy, audacious goal is 5%, right? Like, we basically already own more Toncoin than Michael Saylor owns Bitcoin, right? We're going to go, more aggressive than Saylor or Bitmine have ever been, right? And I think the relative, size of Ton compared to the size of, even Ethereum, right, it's like 50x, right? Solana 12x, right? You can do the math, right? What this might do. And so, and lastly, look, I think the 𝗙𝗏 situation will be resolved. I think alt season again might be good, and also crucially to understand, Ton is the only large layer one that is not available in the United States, and that might be changing soon, right? Just to go back to the all-time high, we're looking at a 2.5x, right? And ETH is kind of already there, and so there's I think you want to quote Wayne Gretzky: "Skate where the puck is going to be, not where it's coming from."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of read this and I was like, okay. I mean, if Coinbase Ventures are in here, alongside Pantera, alongside pretty much every other Sequoia, alongside Mickey Malka's Ribbit Capital, like it just feels to me like there's a very, very, very big mismatch between fundamentals and price on this chain. In fact, probably one of the biggest mismatch between fundamentals and price. And I keep reading this news. I'm like, holy shit, Coinbase Ventures. Holy shit, 1 billion ATM. Holy shit, Sequoia, benchmark. Like, and I'm like, do something.
The setup, what can I say? I'm here with you, right? Like, so I'm, I just agree, but I'm happy to, dive into this a little bit more. But I think, in hindsight, it would have been obvious.
Okay, so the company that you've launched, the Treasury company, is a way for US investors to actually access this asset en masse for the first time. What is the company going to do? So it's going to buy Ton and it's going to stake Ton. Is it going to do anything else, or is it? Because I'll tell you why I ask. Because I see
idea.
Yeah, I want to just give you an idea, like the way I see it, and tell me if my thinking is even in the right direction, right? Like, to me, there's two foundations for an asset. There's the on-chain foundation. The on-chain foundation is a foundation that basically looks after the on-chain presence of the asset, right? And then to me, there needs to be a TradFi foundation, which is almost like the TradFi version of the Ton foundation in TradFi. And one pushes the agenda of the asset and the chain, and one pushes the agenda of the narrative and the investable product to TradFi. I don't know if that does that make sense to you in terms of how I see it?
That makes sense, Ran. Yeah, and look, I mean, we've got a lot of ideas, right? And of course, your audience will be one of the first audiences to even hear this, like in a public forum, right? So look, of course, even doing it the basic way, right? Basically raising capital at a premium to book to buy more Toncoin at book, gross book value per share, and that's a good start, right? And then, of course, we can stake our Ton, right? And of course, there's the simple staking, right? Where you get roughly, maybe 5% gross, 4% net. Maybe you should squeeze those fees a little bit. And that's, tens of millions of dollars of revenues, right? Keep in mind, we're going to run this with a pretty tight cost base as well, right? Now, even better, then we might end up owning our own staking infrastructure, right? Where we basically, pocket the gross staking fee without paying away any fees to any third-party staking provider, right? Even better, why don't we then do delegated staking, right? Guess what? Who, has been working with Sequoia, Benchmark, Ribbit, Barrett. So all these guys have a lot of coins outside of the listed company. Why don't we keep them in our own custody, but let the delegated staking profits accrue here, right? Suddenly, we can build a P&L that could not be like 8, but maybe even 9 figures, right? Double that, right? And of course, there's other ways to get yield, right, on on-chain basis, as you know. And we're going to explore all those options, right? And last thing I will say, just to give you a sense of the scale of the ambition, Pavel has posted, if you read his post, he wants to see $100 billion company, right? Now, how do we get there? Other than, of course, Ton, going way higher, and we're being the biggest owner and buyer of it and the biggest staker of it, right? I mean, let's just say it's been discussed, right? Circle is trading pretty well in the public markets, right? Why don't we consider building, a stable coin? I mean, look, imagine $1,000, right? $1,000 in your checking account, even, for the average Telegram user, right? It's not an insurmountable amount of money to have in your bank account, right? Keep in mind, the rich people on Telegram, the poor people on Telegram.
I see it. It's the world's biggest bank.
If $1,000 is the average balance times $1 billion people, it's $1 trillion AUM business at a 3% NIM. That's $30 billion of cash flow a year. Even if you pay half of that to Telegram, Circle, Coinbase, that's $15 billion of cash flow a year. Whatever multiple you want to put on this, I think $100 billion is not the ceiling here, right? So I will tell you, we are the most ambitious blockchain project in the world, probably after Bitcoin. I don't think we are going to be ever bigger than Bitcoin, probably shouldn't be. But, I think we'll have more users than Ethereum and Solana combined, right? And it's not like, we're smarter or whatever. We have, the distribution, right? And that is, I think, content is king, but the distribution is the queen, and she's wearing the pants. At least
I don't know. I think in this case, distribution is the king. I've got to be honest. I mean, I've been watching what's happened with the stablecoin chains. So Circle launches its stablecoin chain. JP Morgan talking about a chain. Stripe, Plasma, they're all going after distribution. You're saying, hey, we've got the distribution. We've already got wallets. If everyone just leaves $1,000 in each wallet, that's the $3 trillion business. Hold on a second. That's bigger than Tether, actually. Hold on. Whoa, that's I just saw
and
it.
Look, even if you're only as big as Tether is today, 5 years from now.
I'm actually quite disappointed. I'm actually really disappointed. But the thing I'm disappointed about is I'm disappointed in myself for not having seen this before, because I'm supposed to be able to see shit like this. And you've just shown me something that how did I not put together the fact that you guys could launch a stablecoin and have probably overnight the biggest AUM of any stablecoin if X amount of users just adopted it? I mean, how did I not pick that up? That's so disappointing. It's just, yeah, okay. I mean, I feel so dumb. But anyway, I mean, that's on me. Need to ask you another question. So you guys, you launched, you said there was, initially the launch was publicized with, I think, $550 million or so, $558 million. That was the number, right? And then immediately you went in and you did an ATM and at the market at $1 billion for another $1 billion. So need to try and understand something. The initial capital that came into this company, the $558 million, is that ton? Is that dollars? Is that ton and dollars? Where did the ton and dollars, where did this 558 come from?
Right. So, I mean, it's all been disclosed. So I'll just explain for, just ease. For me, it's like, making a fine wine, right? If you know, for instance, what the Bordeaux blend looks like, right?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, 75% is Cabernet Sauvignon, right? So basically 75% is cash. Cash is king, right? And then 25% is Merlot, Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc. So that is ton to start with. And then what we did, in order to create, an entry valuation that, of course, you and other pipe investors will have benefited from, right? We basically cleaned out Telegram for the locked and discounted coins they had to sell. And of course, we got an attractive price there. And the rest is basically for spot buying, right? And that's a huge amount where, we are gearing up for, a program basically. And the ATM allows us to basically, even grow that basically spot buying program, right? I mean, And again, we're not going to stop at $1 billion, right? I think Bitmine started there. I think they just filed for 20 billion, right? I mean, you can just the depth of the U.S. equity market is insane, right? I mean, like literally insane in my mind. And so this is basically the biggest, like, look, I mean, I've been involved in helping other investors get comfortable with Toncoin, right? And you saw there was an announcement, $400 million was invested in Toncoin. It was announced in March. And that was, Sequoia, Benchmark, Ribbit, and Pantera, and others, we did more in a month than happened in 4 years, right? And we will do more in next month. And, so this is just in another level, basically, another scale and speed.
When you talk about $1 billion ATM, basically what that means is that you have the permission or the green light from the SEC to go out and raise the cash. But have you already gone out and started raising that cash?
Amazing, because, let me just explain, because I didn't really have that much experience with ATMs, right? And of course, there are a lot of rules around this, right? This is US securities, right? So there's also limits what I can say, right? But with that disclaimer, right? You have to basically, when you, pick the company that you do these common equity pipe in, the most important criteria is that it is ready. It has, fully on file with all the filings. It is basically S3 eligible. So it can basically become what is a well-known seasoned issuer of 𝗬𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗏, which we are. And that has to also be a minimum of $700 million market cap. We hit that basically on the first day. And then we can file without having any delay, any review from the SEC, and basically sell shares in the market. There's no fundraising pitch. There's no, even a dialogue needed, right? You can just basically sell shares in the market, which is primary fundraising, primary capital. It could be just in the market. It could be blocks, right? If 𝗙𝗘 Wood called me up tomorrow, she just did it with Bitmine, says, hey, Manny, can you give me 50 million or 100 million? I can pick up the phone and cross in the market, boom, done, right? And it settles T+1. And then I can use that cash to buy coin, right? And so the speed and scale of this is something that I think hasn't really been seen. It is not really something that I think is computes to the average crypto investor who are putting together SPVs to run around with relatively small funds, right? And this is another level, Ran, absolutely another level.
Yeah, I must agree. And I don't know, having spoken to you now, I'm like, I have to trust that, I have to trust that the charts kind of tell you a story. And, they said the chart, show me the chart, I'll show you the news. And I don't know, I've been watching this chart's been on a gradual uptrend. It bottomed over here. And I guess this was more or less the time that...
What happened, why it went down. So we peaked a year ago at $8.20, right? And then Pavel got arrested shortly after. And this is basically bottomed then in March, right? As I told you, and even the Trump election didn't really help. Altcoins had underperformed. All the new money came into altcoins, if at all, came from the US. Ton is not in the US yet. And all these things are not changing, right? So there was no treasury company. Now there is one. I'm running it personally, right? This is really important now. And the way we're going to do it, again, hopefully more aggressive than Saylor or even Tom Lee at Bitmine, right? And of course, our ecosystem and market cap in Ton is so small that it doesn't take much to make a big impact, right? Again, we're not yet listed on the US spot exchanges. You just saw the news on Monday. Coinbase Ventures invested. Do with that what you wish, right? And there's Robinhood. There's other ones like you can look it up, right? It's public information where we're not on yet, right? And there's even South Korea where we're not on the biggest exchange yet, right? I mean, South Korea is a whole other level.
So many. Does this mean that very soon, I'm glad you came to Banter first, but does this mean that very soon I'm going to see you on CNBC and Fox? And are you going to do the whole Tom Lee thing?
I mean, look, I have, sort of chosen to reluctantly give up my well-earned privacy here, right? Because this is too important to me personally and to the world. This is nothing but the free world is at stake here, right? Telegram is the single biggest free speech platform in the entire world, bigger than X.com, right? By a factor of 50%, right? This is also the reason why Elon bought X, because it's really important, right? So Telegram is number one, right? And Toncoin is absolutely essential for Telegram's financial and overall independence, right? And so this is really key. This is bigger than me, you, or and now we need to really make sure this succeeds, right? And yes, if it takes me to go on CNBC, I'm doing it, right? I've got stuff booked, I'm doing 15 or so TV or podcast interview in the next 10 days.
But right? You did this one first. But this was the first.
Yes.
Amazing. Manny, I'm going to let you go, my friend. This has been amazing. And I really, I can't thank you enough. And I can't tell you how much I have much more faith in this project. You know, we've been big investors and big supporters for a long time. And having someone like you around just gives me so much more comfort in our investment, just to know that like there's people like you around it. So thank you for being first on Banter. Thank you for all the alpha. Thank you for everything that you shared. And obviously, we'll keep up to date with you as to everything that's happening as and when it's happening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ryan, for not only being such a wonderful voice in the ecosystem, for giving me a platform and the first one to give my sort of maiden interview here as the executive chairman of 𝗏. You're doing wonderful work here. This is important, and freedom isn't free. The mission has to be financed. I think this will be lucrative. And also, please let's do this again. We now want to be basically much more, vocal about this, and also, frankly, give your listeners the edge. Really appreciate the time, and look forward for the next, even the next couple of months, but certainly the next 3, 6, 9 months. I think will be very exciting for the ecosystem.
Amazing, my friend. We'll 100% check in with you, my friend. Thank you so much, Manny.
Follow us on socials as well, right? So I'm on social. You can put this in the show notes, maybe.
Everything will be in the link. Everything will be in the link. All the stuff will be in the link.
Yeah. Awesome.
Manny, thank you, my friend. Guys, I don't know if that, if you still don't see the ton picture after that, then I don't know. I mean, 𝗏𝗏, what do you tell people that can't see the ton picture after that? Like, it's just
amazing.
It's, I mean, 𝗬𝗚, what do you think? She's buying ton. I hope you're also buying ton after that. I mean, really, that's like one of the best pieces of alpha that I've had here in a long time. Anyway, that brings us to the weekend. And basically, if anything happens on the weekend, I'll be live and here with you. Otherwise, I'll see you again on Monday. Until then, trade well, my friends.